I call to order the Westlake City Schools Board of Education special meeting for Monday, June 9th, 2025. Roll call.
Crouch,
Here.
you're not.
Here.
Fanukin,
Here.
Lamb, here. Lizinski.
Here.
Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight we gather in our board meeting, and we know that we are here to serve our mission. Our mission is we educate for excellence, empowering all students to achieve their educational goals, their lives, and to contribute to society. As well as our vision, Westlake City School District will provide a dynamic, student-centered learning environment. Our district will be characterized by high achievement, actively engaged learners, mutual respect, shared knowledge, pursuit of new skills and capabilities, collaborative learning, willingness to take action, a team commitment to data-driven continuous improvement, our strategic planning process, and tangible results. Thanks for joining us tonight, both here and online. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Second. Discussion? Roll call.
Lizinski,
Yes.
Fanukin,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
Lamb, yes. You're not.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We begin tonight, we continue tonight with our board committee reports, legislative liaison. Mr. Karen.
Well, there's been a lot of things happening regarding legislation. Currently, the biennium budget is in Senate. Senate Finance Committee put their version out. We're still waiting for it to pass the Senate. Mr. Hopkins, do you want to speak specifically what's going on with the budget on that part?
I think Dr. Goggin and I will speak to it. We've had the opportunity to do a lot of. I think I'll first ask Dr. Goggin. See what he thinks.
Yeah, so what's interesting is having sat through the Alliance Executive Committee on Friday, Mr. Hopkins, Mrs. Wilson, participating in the legislative and just being in those meetings. The interesting part is there's so much in the bill that typical. There would be other things that you would point to, but with all this stuff that's in there, it's not even. I wouldn't say concerned about it, but it's not reaching the top. So we talked about it, Todd and I, and kind of broke it into 5 of the biggest sections for us to have a conversation about, with the 5th being an overarching one. And that's, and I can go through those 5, tag those it's fine. But the 5th one that I list is the minimization of local control, and that's the overarching theme. Is you have the legislators trying to micromanage districts that are in different positions, whether you're a small rural district, a large urban district, suburban districts, trying to implement the same things to all of them when everybody has their own nuanced responsibilities, financial situations, and all of those kind of things. So when we look at it, that's the big overarching. The number 1 issue is one that was just proposed, and it's, you have a couple, I think they're House representatives who came out and are trying to attach to the budget the removal of inside knowledge. Out of all the things that they're discussing, if they permit that to go in and be active, it would be devastating. Not being dramatically sensible, but you're looking, to give you an example, if you eliminate the amount of funds that we receive annually from inside village, it's $1 million. So that's 20% of our budget. So let's say we needed to offset it, that's over teachers. And on Dover campus, I probably don't have that many more than teachers on my campus. So that's one way to look at it, where we turn around and that would be the equivalent to teachers we would have to cut in order to make up for that. Now, that's the part. Now, I think the concept behind it is inside village is inside the Constitution. That's why it's called inside village. So it's not voted upon by every community. It's something that was established in the Constitution, or the Ohio Constitution, or the funding of public school. So I believe their point is that to take that, then should then be able to vote on it. So that's that one right there. I don't know how much traction it's getting. I don't know how many people are really putting a lot into that, but that one right there, now, just so you know, that wasn't approved by the House in the first budget, wasn't in the Senate proposal. This is from a couple of House representatives.
So it's very new, or is it?
It's probably about a week old.
So it didn't get in the House draft and kicked
It
out?
wasn't, no, it wasn't in the House draft.
Kicked out.
And so that one right there, the second one we talked about would be the 50% cap. We do believe that the cap isn't gonna go anywhere, but it also really.
What do you mean by that? Yeah, because
The cap's gonna really,
It's gonna happen.
At 50?
it's gonna be implemented.
Yeah.
We obviously don't know, but you know, the House Speaker has said that he wasn't married to the 30%, but believes the cap should be in place. So it's feasible that the Senate's 50% could stay. And it could remain in, our advocacy with the alliance is the higher cap. We don't know, there's legs are gonna get to that. So that's what they have there. The other one then, well, I'll talk about policy implications. Then Todd, you can talk about some things in there are things like the math plans. We get it, you know, where you have a push, just like you had a push for literacy, you have a push for numeracy, saying we need to increase scores and productivity with the math. What's interesting is we have a lot of conversations about employee stress, workload, all of that. We hear from our teachers, you know, putting more on us, with less this, less that. And then when you have the state say, by the way, when we spent a year trying to get these RIMs in place and push this through, here come the MIPS, here comes the math version. And then it's like, wow, you know what, you know, staff is so frustrated and that sort of thing. A lot of times people don't understand the policy implications on staff productivity. And because when you put these mandates in, and teachers say, well, we'd like to do professional development on this thing we're interested in. And we're like, sorry, the amount of time we need to work on instruction MIPS. People are gonna be like, snakes. Why can't we look at hot? Let's do that issue.
that's part of what the alliance is referring to is the appearance of micromanagement and the
When
legislature.
it comes to the local control, and so when you are looking, well, even when you talk about the levies that you can put on the ballot, right? You talk about the amount of money you could carry over as a school district to push off teacher levies. When you talk about inside millage, so I mean, everything, a lot of it is the fact that they're making decisions for every district how they.
One size is the.
Exactly. There is the cell phone ban in there. I've been one where that's one of those things they can put in. I would probably just kind of shrug on it. But where if you don't have it in, we don't have a problem with posting our own policies. If you do put it in, that's fine. We can prohibit those during instructional time, just, so that's one that
But that in both the Senate,
that was just a second.
it was just in the Senate.
I don't believe it was.
The governor doing that too?
He's
He has.
He's for it.
He has, so that's one. Increased dyslexia requirements. This is a push to have more testing and monitoring for dyslexia. And again, another thing, especially when you're looking at your elementary schools, you're doing RIMS, now you're gonna do MIMS, now we're gonna do more dyslexia screening times, and then other additional reporting requirements that they talked about. So this isn't just funding that's coming out of this budget bill. There's other things that, we may say, well, 50%'s there. We can survive that, right? They kept the inside millage. We can survive. If they do that, okay, we're gonna be okay financially. But then we brace for kind of the next wave and some of these policy implementation things that are pressed onto school districts. And it's like, well, why aren't your step learners happy? It's like, well, we have a lot of incentives that you need.
It's interesting. I think all of us have faced this in particular when this was shared. And for example, I was at the library on Friday, had a gathering to support the local library and having conversations with community members and having just a glimpse of everything that working to us with the Senate bill. And the observation is, hey, you got 50%, you can live with that, right? It's like, there's a lot more to it. And just I think all the things that we're sharing today to go out there and sharing as well. So there's a lot.
So we actually started a graphic and Impact put together a really nice graphic. It's based on House proposal, and then Senate proposal came. That's what we do the whole thing. And so and some of these things are tough to put in visual terms, except the
Yeah. And your reference to that was eliminating teachers where?
well, no, it would be
Hypothetical.
it would be how many, so when you look at $12 million.
So it's 20% of our budget, but we have roughly, give or take, we have a little under 300 teachers. Because the way riffing process works, start from the bottom, your way, we'd be roughly in about, if we just wanted to put a number to make up $12 million, you're looking at about 100 teachers that you would have to. So what Dr. Goggins using is saying, okay, that's about a third of our staff, so you would have to cut in your Dover campus.
I thought that's what you said. And
Yes.
and
That's
But it
just as,
and that's
we got about 100 teachers.
that's a great vision. Thank you.
so if you look at if you look at Dover campus, the elementary or the high school, literally would have to cut one of those three or the staffing that makes up those three.
Eliminate all the teachers that.
Or go to that.
Or go to that. So, when you look at that inside millage piece, from what I've read, the proposal that's been put out there, it's, and the struggle with it is what it's being sold as I think they said 6 million.
Million or
I'm sorry, billion, $6.5 billion return to the taxpayers.
Going back.
Well, they're saying that they would get rid of inside millage for schools, cities, and counties. It would still exist for townships because townships do not have other tax reform. They can't go to rural areas. What's that? Rural area townships. Well, that's where mainly your townships are gonna be. But their argument is townships can't charge income tax or sales tax. And so schools and cities could do income tax counties can do sales tax, okay? So they're saying, if you want to make up that money, just go do another type of tax. So what they're saying in the bill here is for schools. Specifically, if it would pass, and go into effect, usually it's typically 90 days after it's signed, so somewhere in October, so. They're saying that you would have an opportunity to get November's ballot, get a one-time opportunity to have your community pass it to continue to. Right? If it fails in November or you fail to put it on, automatically starting in January of 26, you would no longer receive words. For us, that's 5.8 mils. Okay. And so that 5.8 mils for $2.1 billion in valuation. So rough number, we're just going to use 12 million, say a rough estimate. What would that mean for us in our fiscal year of 26? Okay, we would lose $6 million out of that. That would automatically happen, starting in January, assuming we did either we're not on the ballot or we fail on the ballot. Then the following year, it's a full $12 million. Just the way we collect taxes over half of this movie. That one is probably what I would say is the most egregious one that they've come up with, because they're selling that as property tax relief, but it is truly a redistribution of money from local governments back to just your taxpayers. But it's on the back of the local governments. It has nothing to do with the state. The state doesn't collect it inside this. Under the Ohio Constitution, you would collect it. It's nothing there, it's unvoted. And so those 10 mills are distributed to schools, cities, and counties. That would hit us the hardest. And I feel we're in a situation. You have a number of legislators who are just seeing what just kind of throwing everything out there right now, and it's going to see what sticks. And that's the that's the piece that's worrisome, because I don't think all these proposals are going to pass. I don't think all of these proposals will. But when you throw that much at the wall, some of it eventually sticks and some of it's going to stick. When you look at the Senate bill, the Senate finance version, specifically, like Dr. alluded to, there's lost a little bit of control right now. As a board, you can vote to go on the ballot, in the elections. You have a number of options at your disposal. And some of those could be called a substitute. Substitute levy is a levy that would increase, okay? It's a fixed dollar amount, a levy that would increase for new construction. Okay? You can do a renewal levy. Okay, you passed an example. I'll just use again. This is no proposal, nothing like that. These are just examples. We have our PI levy that was passed at 0.8 mils back in 2016. And right now that is being collected at just a hair under $500,000. You can go out and say, here, you know what, we want to do a replacement levy. Okay, that will just replace that CPI, but it will take it back to 0.8. Okay. So we would actually get more funding, for doing. There are these different levies that exist that give flexibility to Board of Education that they're talking about stripping from us in the future. And now, to be honest with you, we have a history of using continuous levies, and we don't have any of those levies on our books right now, where we can be worried about a substitute or a fixed dollar sum. Replacement. But it takes away tools for us in the future, and it takes away tools that a lot of school districts use. Another part of their proposal is taking a number of your levies, your fixed dollar amount levies, or fixed sum where they're not subject, emergency levies are not subject to 20-month floor, and they're saying that they will be subject to the 20-month. Again, will not affect us at this time because we don't have any of those levels, but it does take away some tools for the district in the future, and it takes away tools and opportunities for other districts. Those are kind of the pieces within levies when we're talking about loose loss of control, because they're saying, hey, you have all these options right now. Oh, now we're gonna change it. So you have these two options. And so they're just making a lot of changes in that. When we look at, other pieces of the bill, 50% cap, I'm very grateful, that Senate has proposed, the Senate Finance Committee has proposed a 50% cap. Additionally, they put in there where, over the 50%, the district could, leave it's on a 3-year plan, to do capital improvements. You could move that extra money over 50%, to do capital improvements and spend. That would be very beneficial, for us.
We've already got that. We already have.
We've talked about
Yeah,
it,
yes,
yes.
we have that.
We've talked about that. We've had open conversations about it, publicly, even before we knew the cap was, proposed.
So
As
we're
we've got a 5-year
prepared.
PI plan,
That's the point.
we've had this laid out, the PI plan's been presented to the board. Both when Mr. Kosmar was here, going back, and now Mr. House most recently, presented to the board. So that would be something that would have. If the board chose to do that, that would have limited financial impact. We don't have a district, so I'm not appreciative of limited, but we're still waiting to see the actual full Senate version. Okay, that they vote out of the Senate. Then you go to a conference committee. Make, concessions or try to reconcile it to an agreement. Both houses or both chambers. So we're still, I want to say we're a long ways away, but on a calendar, we can't be because really by law, they have until June 30th to not only have all that process, but also the governor or review by the governor in June, or June 10th.
Now, if I'm correct, Slate is working the, Senate, Finance Committee. Or any ballot initiatives, school districts only can have to have like 2/3 of the board. To be
Yes.
on the ballot instead of just a majority, so we have to be 5, we have to be 4.
Yeah, so, I think the way they're doing that would be no more than one board member per ever. So if you have, 4 people there, or even 2, 3 people being your quorum, but you could never have more than one person. So you would raise the level there. Also, there's another proposal that's out there that is for just school district levies alone, okay, would require 60% passage to actually wait. Okay. So,
60 or?
no, 6. So this would be in order to, you go, the board votes, you have a unanimous board vote twice.
Right.
It goes on the ballot, it goes in front of the public passes it by 59%, but it fails because they didn't reach it 60% threshold. Okay. So there's just a lot of things being thrown out there, right? And I would say that very few, if any, are helping to.
And our primary response to that is going to be from the alliance, correct?
Yeah, and individual. But back to that part about the 2/3 to go on ballot, one of the things Todd and I were talking about is what's kind of managing that is you're getting power to or and so we no longer have a majority to make a decision. You can have 1 or 2 decide. I don't want to go on ballot. It doesn't matter. Thanks. Well, sure, it's. I don't know.
Yeah. It seems like it's, do you know what our board policies are? Not that, you sure?
Yeah,
No,
we typically reflect law as we follow. Orthodox, right?
I'm just reflecting on when. Right before. High school was looking at, they talked about things back. And what was to do.
Yeah.
I know, I see. Well, and made you think. Maybe something can't be ready to hear it. I know it went up back. 3-2 did what that?
There are certain laws, and I have a cheat sheet that I carry with me. But there are certain things that the board, needs to have a supermajority to do.
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
Oh.
So I
Like
think I have it in our
Yes.
policy. Administrator will go reemployment when superintendent reaches to a point, 3/4 board. Board member declaration there. First absence for 90 days. For the bid, it's 2/3. Waive. It says competitive bid waived due to item being available, same source.
We're moving and superintendent treasurer.
That should be hands.
Uh, There's gonna be provisions,
Yeah.
that, again, I'm trying to protect certain pieces. from having supermajority, as far as I'm aware.
So it says tax levying a tax in excess of 10 mil limitation, so not emergency 2/3.
No.
No, that one's in
No, that
excess,
is-
Emergency levy.
in excess of 10 mils, 2/3.
Well, no. So when we're talking about they're in excess of 10 mil, 10 mil is your insight.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Everything else of the board does.
So it does seem like, to put something on the ballot,
That could be.
yeah, it has to be 2/3.
Yeah, yes, I do. But Liz, I know you have that perplexed look on your face. Because I was in a lot of meetings and I'm not exactly sure that if or one of the opposition didn't actually meeting and voting or the abstaining. I'm not really sure.
Would it be worth sending families, staff, whatnot, sort of having what's going on? Just,
Short and sweet.
especially because we're probably at the end here, like to understand what we want to love, but at the same time, I think evidence. Here over the next month, see what's going on. And especially.
And the key is like picking certain things that you can. And one of the things that I want to acknowledge, and Todd actually started. Great, well, so again, if you are to pick one of the that are out there, the Senate's proposal is to pull out of them all. So hopefully they can start with what the Senate has and do some work on that, so we can appreciate the Senate, appreciate that to talk that very well. Plan, and even though they change the inputs, it's nice to have some sort of structure instead of just give you this. So we have some sort of. So there are some things that that do appreciate.
Not the intent. Said it's just, is there certain imagine what's the
Yes, and I think, I think all of these things we're discussing, very much, and I think it's twofold, because, as Mr. Pranat was talking about, reaching back out to engagement, I think that this is not just I think the reality of it, whatever does come out of the budget bill, my concern is going to be that after the budget's all done, they move on, to the rest of it, and they just say, okay, now we're gonna do this. And we'll just package it another. And so I am worried that, I'm certainly worried over the next 3 weeks as we finalize the state budget. But I'm also worried about today because there is a concern. I recognize that concern. That I to the concerns, maybe, and as a taxpayer, see property values rise significantly over the past 5 years. And that significant impact has some increase in property taxes. Throughout the state. And I would say, I said respectfully to board members who sit here as residents, but to community here in Westlake, because of the way it was structured, and we don't have emergency levies. So all of our levies all of our levies are continuous levies. And so they're all subject to House Bill 9, which means that your property value goes up, your millage goes down. So we were at 26 mils last year. So we're at just under 22 mils below half. Right now is what's being done. Now, the challenge that we face is those increases impact people differently. And I recognize for some people, their property value didn't go up terribly high. So taxes don't change much. Other people's property value get doubled. Okay. And while I can sit here and say, well, no. Really, when your property value is up, your taxes really go up in that same way. Well, that's true for the community as a whole. But for individuals, and I've seen individuals' tax bills here in Westlake that their property value went up significantly in their tax bill. And I understand the impact of it. And so there is a real need. There's a want from the citizens of Westlake to have some sort of relief. My concern here is the focus of the legislature is looking to do that on the backs of school districts. To some extent, so with the inside military. So that's a challenge. The property tax relief, even when we go back to House Bill 920, since that era, so when we saw hyperinflation, the drove up property values, they said, okay, going forward, we're going to do the homestead roll, homestead exemption. We're going to increase the village as values go up. Well, now we're 50 years later, nearly 50 years later. And instead of saying, the state will take on something to expand the homestead roll exemption, they homestead roll. They rid of the levies back. And so it used to be that 10% of the properties that or residential properties are in the state. If you have the owner on site, major private additional 2%, that means good. He said, we'll honor it for existing trees, but they didn't conform to the units. They found the state has kind of found out some things, and the state just instead of saying, here, stuff, didn't help out the taxpayers, instead saying that we're going to take streets, then we will. And some of these, as we talk about that, we talk about the cap, that 30% of that's not long-term property tax. So one time that was distributed. When we talk about it, it's like village. Yes, that's long-term property tax. Because you actually take what you pay bills, saying they're wrong. They go all over to the city. The challenge with it is for $12 million in other, I become people working 20% to the capital. And that's the challenge. Is while they made some of those problems, we're going to need something So and whether the board wants to go on sales tax, income tax. And doing any income tax, that's, I present the options. to the board.
You can do the same thing.
No, accounts. We can do it. You know, and you can get creative, even before students could only do simple. Maybe early cities. You know, maybe students are saying, well, used to be cities. As a sales tax that supports, school districts, capital improvements. So, you know, that's something that maybe that's what's going to happen. We have local governments or school districts. Can't just take the funding away and say, you know, they'll figure it out, and it's not going to cost the taxpayers. The taxes, you know, tax rate ultimately is same. And I think that even when you look at our property tax, the benefit of our property tax, about a third of our value of our business. Our businesses help pay for our school districts. If you go to the income tax, that's what we levy on the business. How do you do it? When we get the school districts, you want to be out of all that business. So, you know, there's different caveats that when it can hardly put more of a burden on residents than we do.
So not the chance. If we had become 14 hours, what would that be?
So income tax, unfortunately, I don't.
I know.
We would have to dig into that to see this. There are two income taxes. Or you could go, one would be all of it instead of income. So typically you do earn it, so it doesn't. But it's pension, it's not. It's not earning. That's the way. So we would have to run numbers, we'd have to look at specifically this tax investments. So I.
Well, I would say you'd be able to get that. I know, at least probably. Will be devastating.
Oh,
That opposite. Considering you do have the lowest tax rates.
They did a lot of work to come to,
Absolutely,
that's what, but
but
that's
they're,
a hard
but
sense.
they're, but then they're also gonna suffer. It's-
correct. So part of the inside village does go to the city. If I remember correctly, the city has pledged it specifically to policing management. So the city.
Out of the 20, and
It's out of 10.
out of 10.
I have it on my desk.
That's okay. That's okay. I know there's,
It's lower than ours.
Oh, it's, oh, well, yeah, we get the majority of it, because they're 5.8 minutes. So the county gets some unfortunately.
but that others sitting out there going.
Well, and how many times have we talked about it?
There's one bill, so
But as you're putting together numbers for, say, July 1st, that's something that you're exploring.
I can, it is not something that we. I won't say that we haven't considered, but it's not something. Move forward with next. It is something that, again, because our tools in our arsenal are being limited, it's something that we're gonna. Probably have.
And
Well,
our
we
next,
have to, yeah.
your next meeting with the mayor, right?
Well, we just can't, we're the first one. Yeah. So,
I mean, at the end of the day, there's also so many ways to raise money. We're not gonna go to voters, to be able to take out the budget. It's,
the thing about it, though, you know, you're gonna ask for it one way. So whether the property tax or income tax or whatever type of function. It's still, because perception that you're gonna get this relief. Correct. And people are gonna be expecting this relief. And then, now you could say, well, they have a choice. They can choose to, you know, vote for this or that. So I think that's the part, it's the misconception that if this goes through. Everybody's.
it almost looks like it's a concerted effort to fund public schools.
Thank goodness we're getting that Broward Stadium.
Yeah, Maybe we can hold classes later.
Well, that was a lot of great conversation.
Wait,
Work committee reports, the 2A legislative, but what else?
I have a question because.
Yeah.
Dr. God's, bulletin.
Yeah.
And that we need to discuss the acceleration. of capital budget.
Well, I think we hold off. I think it's one of the, here's the nice thing, and Mr. Lamb mentioned it. And did I remember to attach the document that the visual of our capital projects? I didn't get that. Okay, I meant to. So I did have Adam House send that. And we do have that spelled out for years.
Yeah.
And
It's all broken out by years.
Yeah. and
Are
so-
you back?
I'm talking about it, that exact, and
Thank you.
so. One of the things that we've done, you can see in this document. Um. This one is looking at 5 years, and we stage things out, because. They're not a school district, that we aren't in Borough. We don't take the money and say, well, here's. $3.2 million worth of projects we'd like to do. Let's do it all right now. We schedule it out years. So when you look at 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, in 2029, we have over $3 million that we would like to do. 2028, almost $3 million. 2027, 3 million, 2026, 2 million. So you're looking at, what's that, $11 million just right off the bat that are sitting there, where instead of spreading that out, the state is coming in and saying, you have 3 years to do this. Then I think that's when the board, after this vote and everything, we sit down in a work session and say, here's what it would mean. They fell on this cap, which needs us 5% or 10%, 15, whatever percentage that is. Get that number, and we look at it and say, what do we think we need done? And we have maybe in something that in 2028, maybe in 2026, because the funds are big. And so I think if that would be a better time, because right now, we'd be having a company, we don't know how much money it is, we don't know which ones. So that's why.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I was thinking about the intern. Yes. They have. This is all knowing which people who are on there in school funding and what's going on. All of this. I know the heights for sure, there's. It's. But yeah.
Anything I call you?
There's always going to be taking questions, but I
Usually
usually got enough
it's a-
cameras.
An email or text.
Okay. What else on legislative? Mrs. Lizinski, student achievement. And want to share?
Congratulations to our graduate. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a lovely graduation.
So how did it feel?
Well, we needed to touch the, but,
Saw it here. What did you like in the stuff?
What?
I stepped away afterwards,
Oh.
like, it was very nice. Set it up in the back, we'll go back there.
right?
I'll tell you what, you got a great, remember things that, to hear about the kids that, the people that work with you already, we're out of the workforce. And the army, you got a great, it was a great group of folks. You know, people actually. Reward. You know, they not, you know what? I don't know about you, my payday was like. Maybe kids for the top days. Either the goal was. And then. That's a great. Pretty cool. Good.
I could do it.
So the Heidelberg. Looking for.
Get all this worked out
Yeah,
and.
we like to hire one.
Come in.
Well, she's already got another invitation. It's kind of tough, she wants to start with. Looking at some little cool. Right. Will be able. So. Very excited.
Congratulations.
Very excited for all of us.
What else on student achievement?
How about all the stuff?
That's awesome.
That, I mean, that doesn't quite fall into there, but it's how much. I think it's 5,000. It's 5,000.
Oh.
What's the base? Yeah.
Announced that she started Thursday.
Second big one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'll move on to Dr. Goggins, superintendent.
Uh, Policy, we'll have enough. Clean up. Education. Guys, talk a little bit, probably with,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Topics, treasures.
We've met, prior to.
Right.
Also, so that's been. Over estimate. And then I'll put the new things forward with the. So,
the initial design. And the rest of it is that we do still. So it's an excellent idea. So, so really. What a bit maybe that's to the main entrance and the windows on them. Interior vestibule.
That made sense, to everybody?
Have you have any?
We had some that, some very basic. Yeah, hand drawing, they took a picture, just kind of hand drawing, so I got. So the archway were, won't do anything with this. Archway, will be on. Go into. So. This summer. I've been working, stretching. So this will, this symbol will have the new entry. So it happened, like we have an hour, the place did, the best, the place did, the main office. So you don't have direct access into the two. And then you'll work with the. There's a good access. Okay. It's safe, it's just one of those that would try to go. It's real time, properly. So. You can build a better. They're not going to host it. It's a long. Else. My office, was talking to all about the video building. Scared me a little bit, but to be well, business days. To the present days that we do state. So that's why we have business days. And so that's. It's absolutely video. You know, so let me just be very. Taking a little different approach this year. If we can play it. Well, that. For example, there's a lot of people said us. Actually, They gotta be the biggest. Um, They are, and even when you look at the private things. Fortunately. That's still there. So. How would you see? You know, you can see this thing. Okay.
40 comments. Maybe,
Actually, no one.
I can,
uh,
Well, generally, for some of us, I do need to express my appreciation. So I do.
think about you, Dr. Guy, and what you reach out to the community and educate them. Think,
I like, probably from where we are. So, probably. Like, there's. Like, I would. Oh, you know, with me. I had five guys. So, that is so. Out of it. That's why. Them saying, you know, the spectrum. But it's like. But, see it. and I think it's really. Talk about, I'm not talking about like. But things other than. Some people.
Right,
right. The reading. Every day, now we talk about. That, yeah, right. Now, you bought. Now. Out it. Happen.
So. I can pull it. So it depends on the argument. So when you want to sort of operate that it's more than subject to even the real if you want to raise the but we're very fortunate we put it over. So other districts were
Other board comments?
Chris, I will go.
I still have.
Can you bring that next guy?
Yeah, I can.
As you're looking for that, I had the opportunity to go over to school year graduation. Well, they're fun there. There. Thank you.
Yeah, August 17th. Have that again.
What was the name?
August 17th.
And any other board comment? There are motion to adjourn to executive session, to discuss the. Discussion.
Seven. We're not. So it's good. Maybe.
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to being.
We will, decide nothing in executive session or exit